What's up everyone? My name is Morsi, and if you're new to this channel, I encourage others to live with effortless ease. And if you find that what you hear in today's video resonates with you, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to comment. On this channel, I share valuable information about the spiritual awakening process, manifestation, observing thought, ego consciousness, all of what we need to know, what we should know about realizing our essence, recognizing the truth of who we are. That's why in today's video, there are 3 things you must know about ego consciousness. So number 1, is the ego good or is the ego bad? Neither. The ego is neither good nor bad. It's just unconscious. It's just unaware. Unaware of what, Morsi? What's it unaware of? Unaware that we are a part of something much bigger. Unaware of the fact that we are not limited to this body, to our story, our history. We're not limited to what it is that we see with our very surface level senses. The ego consciousness is not aware of that deeper part of us, the essence of who we are. The reason why I put this first, I wanted to share this with you first, is because oftentimes I feel that the ego is used in ways that it ends up making us feel guilty if we refer to ego, or in some sort of way guilt arises. And it's important to know that that's exactly what the ego wants. It's kind of like this never-ending circle of, if someone points out your ego, or you point out someone's ego, or whenever it has to do with ego is looked at something bad, that it's your enemy. And then you feel this sense of guilt arise within you, which only lowers your vibration, which only pulls you, makes a bigger gap with you realizing your true essence, because guilt is not at all a part of your true essence. Here's the thing, when you look at ego as the enemy, what you fight, you become. You try to fight the ego, someone else's ego, your own ego, you end up lowering your state of consciousness to that of the ego, to that of someone else's ego. And therefore, there's not enough presence within you to recognize that you're greater than what it is that you see. So remember, the ego, it's neither good nor bad. And when you feel guilty, step back. There's no need to feel guilty. This is all learning. We came into this world, we were conditioned in many ways to feel that we're limited to this body. But now's your time. You're watching this video. Now's your time to say, all right, I'm going to step back for a moment, and I'm going to recognize through stillness, through silence and spaciousness, realize that in presence, there's a much deeper part of me that can still be present, can still be aware without needing a name, without needing history, without needing a story, right? When you sit still and you're in nature, you sit still and you're relaxed. You're not thinking about who you are, your past, or any of those things. While there is a uniqueness in it, while you can embrace those things, right? It's not truly who you are. There's like 2 levels of us, and it's important that we are aware of those 2 things. So number 2, the second thing you must know about the ego consciousness is that it's mind-made, and therefore it's strengthened through identifying with other things. It's through identification, through an identity. So for example, I mentioned before that the ego, it's completely unaware that we are a part of something much bigger. The ego, and the symbol of the ego is the body. So many times our ego consciousness, it only thinks that we are this body. So many people might solely identify with the way they look. They might solely identify with their knowledge, what they know. They might identify with their achievements and their failures, their stories. They may feel like this victim. That's all part of the ego consciousness. And really it limits us. It doesn't allow us to step back for a second. And what happens is that we're unable to recognize the depth within us. You know, it is important that if you're from a certain country where you feel this sense of love for it and you want to embrace it, of course, embrace it. And at the same time, recognize that that's not the only piece of you. You came into this world to explore a certain way of thinking, of living. We all have different mind tendencies. Consciousness, the universe, it's living through each and every one of us, exploring life in very unique ways. And so when we forget that we're a part of something much bigger, we feel a sense of lack. We feel this need to be superior, to compete. We feel this need to be right. The ego consciousness, you'll recognize that within yourself or within others. When you see that there's this intention to be superior, whatever it is about you, whether it's the way you look, your skin color, what you know, your beliefs. Beliefs is something huge right now. It's coming very close to election time. It's coming right now, it's 2020. It's crazy things that are happening. So everyone is very firm in their belief. These are the times when people tend to lose friends. Unfriending on Facebook and Twitter because you believe something that I don't believe. Therefore, that means that you don't care about me. That's part of what the ego consciousness, it feels strengthened by, because it believes that what it believes is superior and anyone else, inferior. The ego consciousness, it's unaware that we're here to play in the world of form, a term that I learned from Eckhart Tolle, right? We're playing in the world of form, and I like that because through my own journey, I realized that life is not that serious. We live in a dream experience. And when you can stop taking life so seriously, the ego, it can't take hold of you. The more serious you take something, the more it becomes part of your identity. The more you take things personal, the more you feel like some sort of victim. But remember, we're playing. We can manifest whatever it is in your mind, the blueprint in your mind that you would like to materialize in your world, you can do it. Those thoughts in your mind, those emotions that you feel, they only have the power that you give it. Through your own conscious awareness, you're able to transcend that thought. Remember, the ego, it likes to identify with things. It likes to identify with. We can all take certain actions and do certain things. But the ego consciousness comes in when you're identifying with something, taking it as this is who I am. But really, you'll know who you are when you step back, when you're still and recognize that piece of you that does not need a name, history, failures, achievements, beliefs to be present, to be aware. Number 3, the third thing you must know about the ego consciousness is that it cannot survive in the present moment. The ego, it's only alive in the past and in the future, which don't exist. Therefore, the ego consciousness, it doesn't really exist, right? Remember, this form, it's ultimately an illusion in a way. I know some people, in my way of describing it, ultimately when this is all over, this body's gone, this history's gone. And I know for many of us, right, when we think about the fact that, whoa, this part of me who I've always known to be me, it's gone, I'm scared now. What does that mean? You know, if you feel that way, just recognize that's not actually you. That's the ego consciousness. It's actually afraid of existing. The ego consciousness, it's like an entity, right? And it wants to stay alive, just like thoughts. Thoughts want to stay alive. The more you feed it, the more you give it attention, the more you give thought attention, the more you give the ego consciousness identity, it stays alive. But when you start to realize that, whoa, I'm not this name, this history, these achievements, these failures, this ability, this knowledge, the ego will do whatever it can to hold on to something, to stay alive, to make you feel like that's who you are. So whenever you feel that fear, recognize that that's what it is, and that this is your opportunity to realize that there's way more depth to you. You have the ability to realize this expanded awareness that is already within you. Like I said in the beginning, you don't have to search for anything. It's right here. You see, the mind, it's limited in that it doesn't exactly know everything that we are capable of accomplishing, because we're so used to being in this limited egoic mind. The ego, it cannot survive in the present moment, and that's why it's so important to remain present. I mentioned that we're in this time where it kind of feels like we're regressing, right? And when we progress, oftentimes there's a regression. Things happen in our own personal life. Think about those times when everything's going crazy, and then all of a sudden everything's perfect. Everything is going into place. But right now we're in this time collectively where we're like, what's happening? And what we see and what we hear, frustration's gonna build up within us. Anger is gonna build up within us. Some of us might be like, no, I can't be angry. Anger's bad. Let's not be angry. It's not about that. Anger is very natural. Right? It's natural to feel that frustration, to feel that, to see injustice happening, to see that all of this chaos, all of this disorder. It's natural to want to put things together so we can have peace. So the ego consciousness, it'll take that anger and it'll identify with it, and it'll do things that are completely not like you, trying to feel superior. I'm angry and my belief is superior to yours. But through presence will see that frustration and see that anger and transmute it, transform it into empowerment, transform it into consciousness, transform it into what we need to push forward, to think clearly. Through presence, you're able to sit back and recognize your purpose for these moments. You know, I recognize my purpose and I do it as much as I can. I share as much as I can for everyone to realize who you are. For me, when I see this craziness going on, I like to focus on peace within me. So when I come here and I share with you, I like to encourage you to recognize the peace within you, to choose a higher perspective so you don't get drawn into the unconsciousness of this world. To the awakened ones, you know that there's a plan by this very small group of unconscious beings, entities that are trying to control and collectively put everyone at a low vibration so that we are controlled. When you're in fear, when you're in this frustration, when you're in anger and you're taken over by the ego consciousness, you are easily manipulated, easily controlled by what you see, by what you hear. But if you're watching this video, more than likely you're awakening to this. More than likely you're already on board. More than likely you're 2 steps ahead. More than likely you've already had that experience where you recognize the truth of who you are. So like down below. Like down below if you resonated with any of these 3 points. Like down below if you've ever sat back in stillness and realized that essence of who you are that doesn't need any of these forms in this world, that formless part of you. Recognize that. Like down below if you recognize that. So my name is Morsi. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, and check out the 2 videos right here. Until next time, peace.